Hello, snowboarders of the internet. I'm your host, Avran LeFeber, and this is Top 5s, the only weekly Top 5 show in snowboarding. In this week's episode, we're going to talk about the top 5 most underwhelming snowboards I rode for 2020's product review series. Some of you might say these are the worst snowboards I rode. I'd probably agree with that statement. Number 5, the K2 Medium. On paper, this board should be the spiritual successor to the K2 Jib Pan, a board I owned, a board I loved, a board I revere. After riding it, it was anything but. It was dead, lifeless, the side cuts sucked, didn't really turn. I understand it's Jake Kuzik's pro model, so he had a lot of input on it, and he does ride urban rails, but still, the marketing behind this board, it should have been a better board. It's just it. All across the spectrum, it should have been a better board, just through and through. But it was a little lifeless, it didn't really have much snap to it. It was mediocre at best. Number 4, the Telos Blunt. This is their price point or price conscious park board, so that way you don't feel like you're throwing a lot of money away when you break it because you hit a rail. And out of all the boards in the Telos lineup, which are absolutely phenomenal, it's probably my new favorite little brand that's come out in the last 3 years, this board was a complete and utter dud. No pop, lifeless, side cut was okay at best, and was probably the best part of the board. Didn't really press well, didn't really butter well, it's a mediocre snowboard. I get it, it's got very entry-level ingredients in it. It's designed for someone that's progressing into freestyle, but it still just didn't have the wow factor that other boards in that price point or that category reach. Number 3, the Nitro Schtick. This board is an urban board, so of course everyone's just going to assume I hate it because it's soft and flexible, but it wasn't inflexible, it wasn't overly flexible. It was a board that, yeah, I see where it should fit for urban riding, backyard riding, or rope tow riding, but it just didn't live up to the hype that it should have. I mean, it's got a throwback shape to it, which is awesome. I love those throwback shapes, just the way that up kick and the tip and the tail is and how it's chopped down and changes the swing weight on it. But riding it, it was so lackluster. It was very similar to the K2 Medium, which is also on this list. It just did not live up to the hype that I thought that it would have. Number 2, the Soulstick Pocket Rocket. Now, you've probably never even heard of this brand until I reviewed it, but it's out of Eastern Canada, and it's all about powder surfing snow shapes, which is really funny because it's from an area that really isn't known for that. And this is also literally the widest snowboard we rode for our review series. The guy tried to argue with me and say that this thing would snow surf, that you just steer off the back foot. It's going to change the whole dynamic of how you ride and your perception of snowboarding. Yeah, it changed the whole dynamic. I thought I was going to fucking die. You literally made a powder board that can't get around the resort. It's only good in deep snow. I had to go find 2 feet of fresh snow for this thing to turn appropriately and not feel like I was going to die. But the second I got on a groomer, I thought I was going to die, and the nose is so soft. I'm pretty sure at one point it actually bent back and hit me above the knee. It just folded and hit me. And, everyone's like, oh, we got to support these little manufacturers and these guys making new, weird, wacky shapes. Fuck that. Fuck that. Just fuck that. It was awful. And looking at the actual board, there was all sorts of dimples and divots and shit because they didn't clean the cassettes, which tells me that the quality isn't that great on them. The finish was kind of rough. It was just a mediocre board. The guy promised me a board that was going to ride POW and still snow surf the whole mountain and just change the whole dynamic, and it literally was out to kill me. This board was just so fucking underwhelming, and for that price and the marketing, it's the quintessential old rich white guy with money scenario where they just decide that they're going to build snowboards that are going to revolutionize everything, and they can. Fuck this board. Just fuck this board. I fucking hated riding it. It was one of the scariest things I've ever ridden in 20 plus years of doing this. Honorable mention, the 2 boards I rode from Stone Snowboards, the Dirty Fish and Minigun. They had so much potential, but they sent me production samples that had the insert packs wrong and the flex patterns wrong, so they rode weird. Now, supposedly they fixed it for production, and I would love to ride them again, and they have other boards in their lineup that I wish they would have sent me. They were just lackluster and underwhelming. And the final honorable mention is the GNU T2B. I mean, is anyone really surprised? It's a full reverse camber board. It's essentially like a directional skate banana. And we all know I fucking love the skate banana. So, you know, it was completely underwhelming. And while we're at it, we'll just mention Gilson. I didn't even have to ride one. I still think they suck. Just right there, that's a Gilson. They fucking suck. So there you go. And the number one underwhelming snowboard of 2020, the Salomon Six Piece. Fuck this thing. This is literally the worst fucking snowboard I've ever ridden. Like, it takes the fucking cake for just being a dead, lifeless pile of shit. I came down off a jump and the board made this weird, hollow, dead dunk sound. It just had no life, the side cut didn't engage, there's no flex to it, which there's nothing to this board. There's nothing to this board. Like, it should still flex out the tips, and it's supposed to be an homage back to those 90s, late 90s, mid 90s style boards for the jibbing revolution and shit. No, this thing is a fucking turd. It was so bad when I dropped it back off, the person that was picking it up from me was like, "Oh, I can't believe you asked to ride that. We don't even sell that. That thing's awful." Literally the worst fucking snowboard I've been on. Like, if you own one of these, just don't snowboard. Just fucking go back to riding your scooter or whatever it is that you do, because like this thing is awful. Fucking awful. This has been my top 5 list of underwhelming snowboards for 2020. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave me a comment down below, because I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of them. If you're new here, remember to subscribe, click the bell, get those notifications. That way you're not missing any of the content we've got coming out for all you snowboarders of the internet. And if you'd really like to support us so we can make more top 5 lists of underwhelming equipment, swing on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP. I could tell you more here, but I got a video over there that explains it so much better. As always, I've been your host, Avran LeFeber, and I'll see you in another video.